Carl.
Greetings, Michael Kitces. How's it going?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It is conference season as of when we're recording this. Will be a little ways into the summer by the time it comes out. But how have conference travels been for you?
Yeah, it's been fun. One of the things that's really coming up often in conference in speaking things is people are asking about the blue couch, which opens up all this opportunity to troll Michael. So now I have this it's
So
like a built
totally, like my heart sings and like
it's a built-in
into something unto itself.
no, it's been super good. Super
Is
good. So yeah, the blue couch has had a
traveling
couple.
couch traveling with you to conferences now?
This time I flew to everything, so I didn't take the couch, but I'm excited to take the couch again soon. So it's been good. I was at Jolt and a couple other places. It's been fun.
Excellent. I'm hoping we'll get another opportunity on the blue couch together.
We need to do that. We need to do an actual event, like a Kitces and Carl live on the blue couch.
We did pictures on the blue couch at XYPN Live last year, but we weren't actually like joint session live.
Yeah,
Just
for sure.
photo op with the blue couch.
For sure. For sure. What are we talking about?
Oh, in conference season, I'm getting a lot of conversations these days around just basically all things scaling advisory firms. I mean, to me, some of it's just sort of this natural thing of like, we tend to accumulate clients because we usually don't lose them once we get them. And so if you do this enough years, eventually you start kind of getting a lot of clients, and then like it gets a little crowded, and then you got to hire people. And then now that you got to hire people, you got to cover their costs and salary, and you've got this payroll thing. And so then on the one hand, there's some stuff that shows up around that, literally around like scaling, like systems and process and standardization and managing client variability. And there's a bunch of things there. But I wanted to go a slightly different direction today because I got this separate question I thought just is sort of, I don't know, it seems simple, but has a whole lot of nuances to it, which is just someone that had asked me, what's the minimum average fee you have to charge each client to run a viable practice, like a viable solo practice or a viable boutique practice if you're going to have a couple of people involved. And so I thought it's a really interesting question to think about. There's business issues here, there's goals issues here, there's like reach and access to financial planning for consumers issues here. I was like, this is kind of a really loaded question of what's the minimum average fee you should charge or you have to charge to run a viable practice.
Totally. Favorite type. Like you've got a spreadsheet for this, I would assume.
There are some spreadsheets.
There's been some Kitces research.
There are some spreadsheets. We haven't, strictly speaking, we don't have research around what is a required minimum. We do have some numbers around like what advisors charge in practice.
Yeah.
But like, so maybe like just this is an interesting thing because truly there's a lot of different angles around this. The first to me is just, look, like, I can't tell you what the average minimum fee is per client until you tell me how many clients you want to work with.
Right.
We're like, what's your average minimum fee? I don't know. Well, I want to make $300,000 a year. Like, cool. Find a billionaire who'll pay you $300,000 a year to like help manage their personal family office, and you'll have a client of one with an average revenue per client of $300,000, and that's your take-home pay. You tell me like you want to serve the masses and you want to reach 1,000 people. It's like, well, cool. And apparently you're going to be doing like $300 plans for 1,000 people. And then we can have that conversation. So just the first thing that jumps out to me at this, like, I can't answer what your minimum average fee per client is until you tell me how many clients you actually want to be serving, you want to be working with. Because I find like it does vary for us. Some of us like really like super deep with a small number of clients. Some of us love the reach and impact of like, I'm basically going to cram as many clients in there as my like brain can hold and my schedule can permit. Others, I mean, I think most of us, those are obviously extremes, are kind of somewhere in the middle where like, I want a quote unquote reasonable number of clients that when I do a few meetings a year, I've still got the ability to service my clients and enjoy my life and take a little vacation. And like, we kind of back into if I do more or less the standard financial planning model, that many clients is my number.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, I was like, just how do you, like, my first thought on this is, not to cop out with the classic financial planning, it depends on comment, but like really, like, I can't answer this until you also tell me like what your revenue goal is supposed to be in the first place. Like just what revenue or profits, like how much you actually try to make, and how many clients do you even want to potentially sit across from every week, month, and year. And because really, like, I don't come at this from what's the fee need to be. I come at this with, tell me how many people you want to serve and how much you want to make. And I'm going to divide people, and I'm going to tell you what the average revenue per client is, with some caveats that we'll come back to. Like there's a business lens of this as well. But
yeah,
my first thought was like, well, I don't know, how many people do you want to sit across from every year?
Totally. I love that you went there. I'd love to take you through what I call the lifestyle practice revenue generator model.
This sounds awesome. The lifestyle practice revenue generator.
Sorry, revenue model generator. Revenue model generator.
All right. Have you
I was trying to put a deluxe in there.
Trademarked or service marked this yet? Because like this,
I probably should, based on, well, anyway. So yeah, the lifestyle practice revenue model generator. And I was going to throw in deluxe, but here's what it is. There's really just three equations, and they're already outlined. You've already outlined them. So equation number one, personal income. So we take personal income, and I'm just going to use round numbers around here because I'm not smart enough. If I want 100,000 in personal income, then I need to make an assumption about the margin that the business operates on. And we're using rough numbers. So let's just say we pick a 50% margin. And Kitces research could tell you what number to put in there. 50%.
You were 50 as a solo advisor, probably 50 to 70%.
Yep.
Little higher if you want to work with a small number of affluent clients in a really tight bunch.
Yeah, and we both know people that run much more, profitable business than that. So let's just 50%. So that comes up with revenue of 200,000, right? So that's equation number one in the lifestyle practice revenue generator model.
Revenue model generator.
Sorry, deluxe. And then the next equation is exactly what you said. Like, what kind of life do I want to live? And to me, that's like, how many and what type of client do I want to serve? Mm-hmm. So in my head, I actually went and figured out what I wanted my life to look like first. So I sort of blocked out the weeks of the year that I wanted off. I kind of immediately I tried to block out Fridays. And so then I was able to back into, like, if every client needed a meeting once a year, and I was just basing this on this research that was done at Merrill when I was there, they had this program called Supernova. So it was 12-4-2, 12 contacts, 4 in-depth, 2 in person. Now, I didn't find I needed that many, so I changed it. I said 12-1. So 12 monthly contact, and this is proactive contact on my part. This does not include them asking emails or anything like that. We obviously, there's much more touch points than that, but 12 times a year I'm going to reach out. 2 of those are going to be in depth. 1 of those is going to be in person. So that means an annual, phone review that's like maybe 15 or 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And on the opposite end of the count, opposite 6 months later, the in-person meeting. So when I had 12-2-1, and I knew what my calendar looked like, I could then plug in holes. Like, well, look, I can only meet with, and I think the number I came up with, just to use round numbers, was 100. Surprise, surprise. So this seems to be like the lifestyle practice solo, like 100. It also seems to be the upper limit of somewhere around depending on complexity, upper limit of service. So 100. So then I was like, okay, you should do your math. Like the type. So that actually drove. So what I wanted to build and why I wanted to build it drove the type of client.
Okay.
Right. So if a client needed a quarterly in-depth meeting, they weren't a good fit for me because I couldn't fit it in my lifestyle revenue model generator. Right. So that actually drove. I remember meeting with somebody who had a crazy ton of money. He and his father-in-law had sold a business for $1 billion and he owned 49% of it. And I went and met with him. I knew him pretty well. It's not hard. I went and
That's pretty good. That math's well at 1%.
Yeah, I went and met with him and was like, I did the whole line, like, I want to have more clients just like you, because we were friends and I'd helped him with some investment stuff. And then this transaction happened. And he was like, wait. I know about your life. Like, I know that you go on river trips and you're gone for 2 weeks at a time. Do you know that I have like 7 people volunteering to sleep with their Blackberries? This was back when the Blackberry was a thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So yeah, because he's merely a half billionaire. Like, there's a lot of people.
Yeah. And he was like, I don't even know if I need that, but I know that like your service model is built for people who need a one, I called it the annual state of the plan meeting. He's like, I know about the annual state of the plan meeting. Like, you don't want me. So that was really like, that was reverse of how most people think about, like, I'll take anyone and make the business fit anyone. I was like, no, I want to live this lifestyle. This is how I'm going to build a business. That means I want this number of clients. So, I would immediately know that working with, probably working with 500 public school teachers wouldn't be a good fit for me, but it could be a good fit for somebody else. So I narrowed in, what ended up happening was like, well, wait, a lot of the people the activities I enjoyed doing with were ER doctors. That's always handy, actually. ER doctors, anesthesia, radiology, because they had control of their lifestyles. It turns out those are kind of lifestyle doctors because they don't have plant and equipment. They typically don't have terrible call. They show up, they call themselves lunchbox doctors. They show up with their lunchboxes, they do their work, they go home. And where I lived, they were in this part of the country because they enjoyed the same activities. If I was in Phoenix, they'd probably be a lot of golfers and tennis players. You know what I mean? So that's how so back to our answer was if
personal income, how many,
margin,
what type of client do I want to serve? I think you said there were 3 equations.
Yeah. So the last one is just divide the one by the other. So if I can have 100 clients and I need 200,000 revenue, it's a pretty easy thing to figure out. I need 100 clients to generate 2,000. My minimum fee's got to be 2,000. Now, those were not my numbers, by the way. My numbers were much higher than that in terms of my goal numbers, but these are simple numbers that I don't have to pull out a calculator. So it's personal income divided by margin equals revenue. Equation number 1, set that number aside. How many clients do you want? Like, what kind of thing do you want to build? How many clients do you want? Get that number, divide the first number by the second number. That tells you your minimum fee. That's how I did it. And that is, Michael, I just have to stop and comment here. That lifestyle revenue model generator, I have to look down every time because I wrote it down. Deeply tactical. I mean, come on. Can I get some like high fives for sharing?
I appreciate you sharing a concrete tactic because I know you like to just challenge us mentally to think differently. So I will give you the shout out. That was a very concrete tactic there. I'm assuming that means there's like a strategic whack upside the head that's going to be coming in a few moments now. But
if you would just if you would just all sprinkle some love in the comments for that, that would be just a little sprinkle.
This really is like, this is a breakthrough for Carl to like share a concrete tactic. I mean, like,
my hat off.
Going so far as to sharing the 17-point wealth management audit list yet, but like we've had a moment here. We need to acknowledge the moment. That
little sprinkle. So that's the lifestyle revenue model generator. Lifestyle practice revenue model generator.
Deluxe. So I do think there's an interesting framing that comes from this, because what I find for a lot of advisors who I've seen go through some version of this, they get to a number and say, I can't, but I don't think that's going to work. I want to make 300. I think I can get an EBOC of 60%, so I need 500 gross. But in my ideal world, I'd really work with like no more than 25 clients. And I don't think I can get 25 clients at 20 grand a piece.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about the model we just laid out is you now know what levers to play with. Either you're going to have to figure out how to get clients at 20 grand a piece, 25 grand a piece, somewhere in there, which by the way is totally possible, right? Yeah. Or you're going to have to adjust one of those other numbers, like move the number of clients up, move the revenue goal down, like whatever the what levers to play with now.
The second version of this I find that shows up are people that go the other direction. Like, I wish I could help more. I wish I could help more people. I want to add more people in, which either means like, look, you can volume yourself up as you want, right? Like in the example you gave, Carl, like, look, if you want to go this route, like serve 200 clients at $1,000 a piece, like come up with an hourly model where they just come in and ask you questions and you bill them for an hour or two of your time, and do 400 clients at $500 a piece, and you'll get to $200,000 revenue. There is a challenge I find for some of these models, which is just, you also need the time to market and get the clients, right? If you're going to build into this, like I need some time to do the client things, and I need some time to get the clients to do the client things for. And there are sometimes, just practically speaking, challenges around, I don't know how to get that many clients for the people that want to do the high volume reach sort of thing.
Yep.
I do think it's powerful just when you put it in this frame, and getting back to your earlier comment, just if you look overall at some of the industry practice management metrics that are out there, like 60 to 80 clients per advisor is pretty common for most of the end of the day. I mean, I find like by 40 to 50 client, and I'm assuming like active clients you're in a meaningful relationship with, not like the number of people to whom I once implemented a term insurance policy or did an IRA for, like just like clienty clients, not former customers. Because I know some folks, depending on what model you came in, I'm like, I have 372 clients. Like, yes, but you haven't talked to 272 of them in several years.
Right. Those are customers.
Yes.
Right?
So like I'm talking about clienty clients. Clienty clients.
Nice. Yeah, like that.
So when you get down to that level of relationships, I find for most firms, like somewhere by 40 or 50 clients, the sheer amount of like tasky things that need to get done just to service and support clients starts getting a little heavy. So we tend to try our administrative team help. That can get us to 60, 70, 80 clients, maybe 90. But then there's just so many meetings to do and meeting prep to do and plan updates to do and such that we'll often hire an associate advisor. That can then get us to like 120, 140, 150 clients across two advisors, like me and my associate. And you kind of end out in this realm of about 60 to 80 clients per advisor, or 120, 150 on a team, except you got some salaries to cover as well. So the math gets a little bit messier because take home pay divided into lower margins because I've got overhead, but you can still get to the same thing. One of the things I find interesting when you go that route though, and indirectly, Carl, to be like you highlighted it is recognizing that advisory firms that run pure solo run some pretty astonishingly good margins, right? Like the industry label is EBOC. EBOC is earnings before owner's compensation. Just recognizing, look, if I pull like a big old business out that's got a zillion advisors revenue and such, like, and I look at their profit margin, the profit margin tends to be their profit margin. Like all the people in the business are paid for all the various things that they do. And then like the dollars left at the bottom is the profitability of the firm. When you're a solo, it's kind of weird to do that because like technically part of the revenue is like your job as the advisor. And then part of it is your profit as the owner. And yes, like, from a tax perspective, if you're an S corporation, you are supposed to pay yourself a reasonable compensation. But from a practical, like benchmarking the business perspective, when the owner's portion of the compensation is a really material portion of it, and you can basically dial that number up and down as much as you want, a lot of firms literally just don't even look at the profit margin. They look at this number called EBOC, earnings before owners compensation, to say like, we're not even going to worry about how much you take in salary and how much you take off the bottom line. Like, just put it all in one big old bucket and say like, that's your EBOC number. So some firms will run 50% as solo practices. More commonly, I see 60 or 70% once you get past like the initial startup-y phase and you get to some critical mass of clients. And some highly leveraged firms that have really good systems or just work with a fairly small number of fairly large clients, you can get up to, I've seen 80%, I've seen 85%. It's a little hard to get much above that because just there's some level of overhead that you've got for the business. Yeah. But you can get some pretty big numbers. The interesting thing to me, though, that crops up with that is the moment you start hiring team members, those numbers start coming down a lot. Like you're not at 80+% with team members. You're down like 60 or 70%. It's like, well, cool. Team members do leverage you. You can take on more clients and do more things for them and grow the business bigger. But it's like, well, I hope so, because you're going to have lower margins and you have to take on more clients and generate more revenue. Just get back to your same darn number in the first place. And to me, it gets really interesting when you start looking at it from the perspective of, what would my margins realistically be so I can back into what my revenue needs to be, so I can figure out what my average client needs to be, and just recognize like how those numbers start shifting as you hire team members. And it's like, well, I hope we grow more because I'm kind of making the goal line further away.
Yeah. I was always,
or conversely, like, well, now I have to have higher fee minimums and raise the number up, because I got staff overhead and payroll, and they only have so much time and capacity before they run out of room in their schedules before I have to hire another staff member. And if I have to hire a second staff member because the first one is loaded up with clients that aren't actually very profitable, now I'm actually losing money because I'm hiring more staff. But that only crops up once you start adding people.
I've always been astonished at this conversation. We've had this conversation, just like how often people don't, and I know I didn't, like how often we don't think through that. I just remember being like blown away because I never had any employees. I had some contract help. And I remember just being blown away by some of the numbers. And we know people like this that like run those kind of firms. Remember Dan Goldie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Dan Goldie when he interviewed, he was like, I remember when he was trying to join certain big firms, like get some of the services from, and he would say, if you answer me, you need to hire people, our conversation's over.
Yeah.
You know? And
like for those who aren't familiar with Dan's story, like he got to almost $1 billion under management as a pure solo advisor, like literally zero staff, giant like, AMP platform on the back end. I mean, like he did outsource a bunch of stuff to a TAMP.
Outsourced everything. Like everything he could.
Outsourced everything.
Except the value.
$1 billion under management as a pure solo. He had like 270 clients that were $3 or $4 million a piece. And all he did was talk to clients all day long because that's what he liked doing. He's really good at it.
I remember having this conversation, and I can't remember who he was, but he was in like Newport News, Virginia or something. And I remember the math was something like 700,000 in revenue, 85% margins. Mm-hmm. And I called him and I'm like, man, your business must be really hard because you do everything yourself. He's like, I'm done by noon, 3 days a week. Like, I don't know what the rest of you do. And the point is not necessarily whether that's true or not.
Because he had 20 or 30 clients that paid a lot of dollars and there just literally weren't that many clients.
Or 80 clients that just had very simple situations. He was delivering tons of value, right? He wasn't charging a really high fee. I mean, he was industry or like bottom end of industry average, like just below industry average. I just remember, and I'm not trying to make a point that that's the right way. I'm saying going into it without doing the math leads to a lot of pain without realizing like, wait, in order to do that, I'm gonna have 7 team members. I'm going to generate this much in revenue, or I could have this. And we both know people who have built great businesses that are, the answer is 7 team members, 12 team members, 20 team members. I want to build that. Cool. But just go into having done the math.
I'm gonna have to commemorate this episode somewhere where Carl is the one that said, you have to do the math. Like you're
I
just,
don't,
oh,
I don't even, look,
took us,
I mean, look, listen,
took us through
I
spreadsheet
play this,
exercise. I love this. I love
I
this.
play this character that just draws with a Sharpie, but I know how to use a calculator. I mean, I didn't get through this whole thing without I got my 17 whatever over there in the drawer. HP 17B2.
12C. Come on, man. 12C.
Reverse or not?
Yes.
There you have it.
I will say though, the biggest constraint I find that crops up in practice when I have these conversations with advisors, like as you said, like the math's not, I mean, the math's not that hard. The math gets fairly straightforward. I find for a lot of advisors, what they really end up doing is they figure out the biggest clients they think they can get. And then they start backing in how many clients they need in order to hit that goal. And kind of create this self-limiting belief that like I don't know if I could get bigger clients. I don't know if I could find them. I don't know if I could get enough of them. Instead of saying, no, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want the business to look like. This is what I want the income to be. This is wherever it has to be. This is how many clients I need to do it. And so now I'm just going to focus all my time on getting those.
I mean, can you like the power? I have zero doubt that anybody could decide whatever they want based on the like that lifestyle practice revenue model generator deluxe. You decide what you want. And it, you know, your example of 25 clients or 2,000 clients, you decide what you want and you take all that wasted and all the energy you would have spent in dispersed energy and all sorts of like recalculating, rethinking, do I need to hire this? Do I need to do that? And you just narrow it in on, I'm going to find those kind of clients. And I have zero doubt. I mean, I've seen it too many times where as soon as somebody decides,
it's like basically Napoleon Hill, like Think and Grow Rich framework of just when you get that laser like focused on exactly what you want your business to look like, it's you surprise yourself sometimes how quickly you can actually get it there when all of your mental energy goes to it because you actually commit to it instead of sort of saying like, well, that would be neat, but deep down, I'm not really sure I can get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like to, and we probably don't have time to talk about it, but I'm in the middle of Dan Sullivan's new book, 10X is easier than 2X.
Mm-hmm.
It is like, I mean, I've heard him talk about that concept for 10 years, but the book is so good. And it's so interesting to realize like once your head, and by the way, he's not saying 10X is easier than 2X in 1 year. I mean, he's talking like it took him 17 years.
Yeah.
The first one and the first one took 15 years. The next one took 17 years to go from 400,000 to 4 million and from 4 million to 40 million. We're talking 15 years, but it's the mindset. You're not thinking about how to do the double. And once that concentration happens, all sorts of things, you start acting in different ways. And so I think there's all sorts of ways to play that game too. Like that just doesn't by the way, that doesn't mean like I want to serve only billionaires. That doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean I want to have a huge revenue number. It could mean I want to do it on fewer hours. It could mean I want to do it on my terms. It could mean I want to have this much impact. It doesn't have to be focused on the idea like I want to serve bigger people. So I just think that's super powerful. So that's to me why it was so helpful to do the math.
Yeah. Well, I agree. Like it doesn't have to come from serving bigger people, but I will say from the flip side, because just like this is one of the things that we see quite drivingly when we really drill down and look at the numbers of these like super high income solo practices. They do tend to go up market.
Sure.
They do tend to be folks that are, I don't want to give like a hard and fast minimum number, but like $5,000 of revenue per client and up to 10,000, 20,000. I mean, I've seen folks that like they have $1 million practices because they have 30 clients that have $3 or $4 million each, and it's $100 million as 30 clients, and it takes days a week, not full time, to serve them because there's just literally not that many clients. As I put, like they work 110% for a 50% client load, which means they only work 2 to 3 days a week.
So good. I'm in
And
love with that stuff. Like, so good.
yeah. And so like I don't want to beat the whole drum around like move up market, move up market, move up market, but just I do think it is fair to recognize when you see the practices that have done that with some really big income and revenue numbers and very limited amounts of time, that is how they're doing it. And there is a particular power of when you get some pretty affluent clients, it's astonishing how few of them you need to have a very economically profitable business.
For sure. That's amazing, man. Amazing.
Well, thank you, Carl.
Cheers, Michael. Super fun.